Have you ever felt lonelier right after being intimately close with someone than you do when you're actually alone? Have you experienced that jarring sense of emotional whiplash, where one moment, your partner seems to adore you, and the next, they vanish or turn icy cold? If you've asked yourself why your most vulnerable, precious moments are often met with confusion, shame, or even silent neglect, you are not alone. Welcome to Unmasking Personality, where we explore the hidden aspects of human psychology, with a special focus on relationships and power dynamics. I'm Mark, and in this video, we're tackling a topic that, for many, remains a heartbreaking secret: 13 signs you're having sex with a narcissist, and how you can break free. I want to be crystal clear, this is no ordinary conversation about bad relationships or mild personality quirks. We're talking about individuals who can appear charming, magnetic, and attentive, yet quietly orchestrate your emotional downfall behind the scenes. In the bedroom, their drive to control, manipulate, or extract admiration can leave you feeling used, confused, and starved for genuine connection. Throughout this extended discussion, we'll delve into the lived experiences of a woman I'll call Mia. She's in her early 30s, working as a marketing coordinator in Boston, a smart, self-reliant woman who never thought she could be played by anyone. Yet, the deeper she fell for her partner Jared, the more twisted their private moments became. In sharing Mia's story, I hope you'll find clarity and validation if you've sensed something is terribly off in your own intimate life. By the end of this video, you'll not only grasp the key signs that you might be sharing your bed with a narcissist but also learn why it's so challenging to walk away. I'll explain the addictive cycle of trauma bonding, the rush of feel-good hormones, and the self-doubt that keeps us chained to toxic dynamics. Finally, we'll explore practical steps to reclaim your power, your dignity, and your future. Before we dive in, I invite you to participate actively. If you recognize pieces of your story in what we discuss, please drop a short comment, like "I'm not alone," so others can see they're not the only ones. Community can be a lifesaver when dealing with manipulative relationships. Let's begin. Before we unravel the 13 signs, let's frame exactly what we mean by narcissist. In psychology, narcissistic personality disorder is a clinical condition involving a pervasive sense of grandiosity, an intense need for admiration, and a startling lack of empathy. Not all people who show narcissistic traits meet the full criteria for a clinical diagnosis, but even subclinical traits can wreak havoc in relationships, especially in sexual intimacy. You see, healthy intimacy involves vulnerability, respect, and a desire to ensure both partners feel nurtured and emotionally safe. It's not just about physical gratification, it's about shared presence, empathy, and authentic closeness. A narcissist, however, often sees sex as a performance stage, a means to extract praise, or worse, as a method to prove dominance. They may want you to idolize them while neglecting your own emotional needs. This is one reason the bedroom can become a psychological battleground. The narcissist might appear unbelievably attentive the first few times, perhaps boasting about their skills in a subtle or overt way, only to later withhold warmth or affection once they feel they've secured your admiration. This isn't just random selfishness. It's a calculated form of manipulation. They're training you to chase their validation. Consider prominent stories of celebrities who escaped controlling partners. While not every tale is strictly about narcissism, many contain narcissistic elements, like emotional manipulation, belittling comments, or a one-sided obsession with their own image. Tina Turner spoke out about her abusive and controlling marriage, shining a light on how personal and sexual control can tear someone apart from the inside. Or look at certain high-profile divorces where details emerged about one partner's need for constant praise and blatant disregard for the other's emotional well-being. If any part of this resonates, if you felt used, like your body was a playground for your partner's ego, understand that you're not crazy for suspecting something deeper is wrong. Narcissism isn't always loud or obvious. Some narcissists are covert, quiet, and appear extremely nice at first. But eventually, the patterns surface. Soon, we'll break down 13 explicit signs that your sexual encounters may be entangled with a narcissistic partner. As I list them, I'll continuously refer back to Mia's story, illustrating how textbook narcissistic behaviors manifested in her life. Pay attention, because these signs can apply to either a short-term fling or a long-term relationship. You'll also see how easily one can become trapped, even after noticing red flags. Let's begin with sign number 1. To better illustrate these points, let's start with Mia. She's 31, well-educated, and quite independent. She met Jared at a friend's birthday dinner. He was charismatic, told charming stories about his travels, and showered Mia with attentive questions about her life. Within weeks, they started dating. Mia described the early phase as magical. Jared seemed so thoughtful. He booked romantic dinners, texted her sweet messages during lunch breaks, and even told her he was ready for something real. Looking back, Mia says there were small signs that Jared was more infatuated with the idea of conquest than with who she actually was. But in the glow of a new romance, she brushed them off. It was in the bedroom, however, that these warning bells turned into a siren. Let's jump into the first major sign. Sign number 1, sex as conquest, not connection. When you're in a caring relationship, intimacy serves as both emotional glue and a safe space to share vulnerability. But for a narcissist, sex becomes an arena of conquest, a personal trophy moment. The narcissist often sees you as the final prize. If I can bed you, I own you, at least for now. In Mia's case, the first time she and Jared were intimate, she was excited. She thought, here's a guy who listens, who seems so tuned in. But right afterward, Jared's demeanor flipped from warm to triumphant, almost smug. She recalls him half joking, I knew I'd get you. There was no cuddle, no afterglow chat, just that cocky attitude. At the time, she chalked it up to nerves. But in retrospect, it was a glaring sign that his primary thrill lay in winning her over, not building a deeper bond. If you've ever finished being close to someone and felt like you just lost a game you didn't even know you were playing, that's a giant red flag. The narcissist sees it as a notch on their belt or a checkpoint in their self-esteem game, rather than a mutual act of affection. Sign number 2, craving constant adoration or praise. Another giveaway is their relentless appetite for validation. Narcissists feed off your compliments, especially regarding their sexual prowess. They may ask you repeatedly, was that the best you've ever had, or steer conversations so you'll praise their technique or physique. It's not about mutual enjoyment, it's about fueling their ego. Jared exhibited this when he kept prompting Mia after each encounter, seeking detailed confirmation that he was the greatest lover ever. If she hesitated to lavish him with superlatives, he would become sullen, or worse, accuse her of being ungrateful. In a healthy relationship, sure, partners appreciate affirmation. But it's a balanced give and take. With narcissists, it's a one-way street, where your approval is mandatory, and there's no real interest in your own desires. If you've experienced a partner who insists on hearing how amazing they are but never seems to ask how you feel, drop a quick "me too" in the comments. Sharing can highlight how widespread this behavior really is. Signs #3-4, gaslighting and I know you better than you know yourself, approximate 450 to 500 words. Sign number 3, I'm right, you're wrong, gaslighting in the bedroom. Voiceover with a mildly serious tone. Narcissists will rarely accept any feedback or critique, even if it's as harmless as, could we slow things down tonight, or, I'd like it if we tried something different. The moment you propose an adjustment that doesn't serve their ego, they may call you silly, overly sensitive, or accuse you of spoiling the mood. This reaction is a form of gaslighting, manipulating you into doubting your valid concerns. Mia tried to communicate her preferences, like wanting more emotional closeness or a gentler pace on certain occasions. Each time, Jared would snap, stop being complicated. I know what's best. You should relax. Over weeks and months, Mia started to question whether she was indeed too uptight. The mental strain of constantly hearing you're at fault can severely erode your sense of self. You become hesitant to speak up, and your partner effectively gains total sexual control. Sign number 4, they claim to know you better than you know yourself. This sign expands beyond the bedroom into daily life, but it's especially potent in intimate settings. The narcissist might say things like, "I can tell you don't actually want that. You're just insecure," or, "I've had more experience, so I know what you need better than you do." They position themselves as an omniscient authority, overshadowing your personal boundaries. In Mia's case, after a night when she felt emotionally hurt by Jared's detachment, she tried to express it. Jared responded with, "Oh, Mia, you're just projecting your past issues onto me. I know you're afraid of real intimacy, so you sabotage it." With these words, he wasn't addressing her feelings, he was rewriting them. He usurped her perspective and replaced it with his own twisted narrative, leaving her unsure if she was the problem all along. Have you been told, "You don't really feel that way, you're just messed up"? If so, type "I decide my reality" in the comments. Remind yourself that your inner truth belongs to you, not to someone else's version of it. Sign number 5, refusal to communicate about sexual concerns. You'll notice that any attempt to have a mature conversation about sex, like discussing frequency, preferences, or any discomfort, hits a wall. Narcissists are often unwilling to compromise or validate your feelings. If you voice that something hurts or that you'd like to try a different approach, they might roll their eyes or snap back, "Why are you so picky? It was fine last time." Healthy couples engage in open, curious dialogue about intimate matters. They want to co-create a satisfying experience. Narcissists see your requests as attacks on their perfect image, so they deflect, belittle, or shut you down. This leaves you feeling misunderstood, ashamed, and reluctant to bring it up again. Sign number 6, your emotions don't matter. Beyond ignoring your sexual preferences, a narcissist typically shows blatant disregard for your emotional aftermath, like postcoital sadness, anxiety, or that longing for a gentle hug. They may physically or emotionally detach, leaving you feeling more isolated than ever. Mia describes a moment when she desperately needed reassurance after a particularly vulnerable night. Jared was glued to his phone, scrolling through social media. When she expressed her sadness, he simply said, "Why do you have to make everything so dramatic?" That single sentence crushed her. It signaled that her emotional safety was irrelevant, his convenience was paramount. If you've ever ended a night feeling emptier than before, comment, "Heard," below. Sometimes, voicing it is the first step to understanding it's not normal and definitely not okay. Sign number 7, convincing you that you're the one with all the issues. One of the narcissist's favorite tactics is to highlight real or imagined flaws to keep you off balance. Since they can't tolerate being questioned, they spin the narrative that you're the needy one, the incompetent one, or the one who can't handle a normal relationship. Jared did this relentlessly. If Mia ever confronted him about a harsh comment, he'd say, "You're just too sensitive. This is why people walk all over you." Over time, Mia internalized that she was the one who didn't know how to be in a healthy relationship. She spent hours reading self-help articles, never realizing the main culprit was actually Jared's manipulative behavior. Sign number 8, abrupt devaluation, ghosting, or emotional withdrawal. Perhaps the most jarring pattern is how a narcissist can idolize you one day, then treat you like an afterthought the next. They might shower you with compliments initially, sometimes called love bombing, only to yank away attention once you're emotionally hooked. This push-pull cycle creates confusion and fosters an addictive chase for their fleeting approval. In Mia's timeline, things seemed heavenly for the first 2 months. Jared called or texted constantly, telling her how he'd never met anyone so special. She felt on top of the world. Then, one weekend, he vanished, no texts, no calls. She worried something terrible had happened. The following Monday, he casually messaged her, "Hey, been busy. Chill out." That sense of being dismissed and trivialized undermined her self-esteem. She questioned if she'd overreacted by caring. When a partner repeatedly disappears or withdraws right after intense intimacy, it's a sign they're not in it for genuine connection. Instead, they're fueling a cycle where they decide when and how you get their attention, often to underscore their control. If you've ever experienced someone going from soulmate to stranger in a blink, please leave a simple yes below. Sharing can help validate each other's confusing experiences. Sign number 9, total control over the dynamics. Another major hallmark is the narcissist's obsession with control. This can manifest in small, subtle ways, like choosing positions or pacing without regard for your comfort. Or it can be broader, such as dictating when you should be available for sex, how you must dress, or even what you're allowed to say about your shared experiences. Mia noticed that Jared wanted absolute command of every detail, from which nights they met to how things unfolded in the bedroom. He would frame it as, "I'm the man, I should decide," or "I know what's best for us." If she resisted, he'd use emotional blackmail. "Are you trying to ruin our night? Why can't you just trust me?" Over time, Mia grew fearful of voicing any opinion that clashed with Jared's. She found herself tiptoeing around him, desperate to avoid conflict. Outside the bedroom, narcissists often escalate controlling behaviors, like policing your phone, deciding which friends you can see, or making you feel guilty about having personal boundaries. In an intimate context, control can become more invasive and psychologically damaging, because it strikes at your sense of sexual autonomy. Sign number 10, chronic lying and zero empathy for the consequences. Narcissists frequently lie or twist facts to maintain power. They might invent stories about their past, or lie about their other relationships. And if they're caught, they usually deflect, "You misunderstood me," or "How dare you invade my privacy." In the realm of sexual intimacy, lying can range from exaggerated claims of fidelity to false declarations of sexual health. Some narcissists keep multiple partners, each unaware of the others, fueling their ego with the notion that many people desire them. The scariest part is that they feel no genuine remorse when their lies inflict heartbreak or even health risks. Mia discovered Jared was intimately involved with at least one other woman, possibly more, during the time he claimed exclusivity. When she confronted him, showing screenshots he'd carelessly left open, he turned the tables and accused Mia of spying on him. He never acknowledged her emotional pain, only his anger at being violated. It was a blatant attempt to shift blame, typical of narcissistic manipulation. If your partner's stories never quite add up, and their knee-jerk reaction is to shame you for questioning them, that's a huge sign. In healthy partnerships, transparency and accountability might be difficult, but they're essential. Chronic dishonesty is a direct pathway to emotional turmoil. If you've ever had a partner lie about fundamental aspects of your relationship, and then gaslight you for bringing it up, comment "Truth matters" below. You deserve honesty, especially about something as intimate as your physical and emotional well-being. Sign number 11, surface level, kindness that serves their ego. Narcissists might be unbelievably attentive in bed at times, but not because they genuinely care about your pleasure. They do it to gather praise, confirm their self-image, or to keep you on the hook. Think of it as a strategic investment. "I'll make you orgasm tonight so you'll keep worshipping me tomorrow." Mia remembers the occasional nights when Jared was shockingly gentle and focused on her pleasure. She'd be momentarily relieved, thinking, "Finally, he's understanding my needs." But by the next morning, he'd revert to ignoring her texts or snapping at her for small things. His kind moments weren't expressions of empathy, they were tactical moves to keep her bonded. In a healthy dynamic, your partner cares about whether you feel emotionally connected and physically satisfied. They'll check in with you even after the act. Narcissists often follow a high note, like a grand display of passion or generosity, with an emotional crash that leaves you disoriented, questioning what just happened. Sign number 12, apologies that mean nothing. Narcissists rarely offer sincere apologies. If they do, it's a tactical apology, designed to smooth things over quickly so they can return to the status quo. A typical narcissist's apology might sound like, "I'm sorry you're upset," or "I'm sorry you misunderstood." Notice how it avoids real accountability. Mia once confronted Jared about a very hurtful remark he made regarding her body. He said, "I'm sorry you're so sensitive. I was just trying to help you improve." In that single sentence, he both minimized her pain and shifted blame onto her sensitivity. The apology wasn't about her hurt feelings, it was about silencing her so he could move on without consequence. True apologies require honest recognition of harm caused and a genuine resolve to change. Narcissists, by definition, struggle with empathy, so their sorry rarely extends beyond self-serving intentions. If an apology makes you feel worse or more confused, it might not be an apology at all, just another manipulation tool. If you've received an apology that seemed to make everything your fault, comment "Apologies matter." A real apology isn't about winning the argument, it's about healing and growth. Sign number 13, no genuine emotional connection. And that brings us to our final sign, the absence of authentic emotional intimacy. Even if the sexual chemistry is intense, you'll likely notice a stark emptiness right after. A narcissist doesn't merge the physical and emotional the way a caring partner would. Mia recalled feeling alone in the room, no matter how physically close they were. Jared kept a barrier around his heart, he'd never open up about deeper topics, nor did he encourage her emotional openness. Whenever Mia tried to share something meaningful, like a childhood memory or her hopes for the future, he'd steer the conversation back to himself or dismiss it entirely. Ultimately, intimacy with a narcissist feels like you're pouring emotional energy into a vessel with no bottom. You leave each encounter feeling drained, not rejuvenated. If deep down, you suspect you're being used, or that there's a complete mismatch between the physical act and the emotional bond, pay attention. Real love fosters a sense of safety and connection, not an ongoing sense of dread or emptiness. Let me know if you've ever felt emotionally ghosted, even with someone lying next to you. Type emptiness if that resonates. Your words might help another person realize they're not alone. Now, you might be thinking, if it's really this bad, why do people stay? The answer lies in a potent mix of trauma bonding and hormonal addiction. Trauma bonding occurs when a relationship cycles through extreme highs and crushing lows. The narcissist showers you with attention, maybe lavish gifts, intense compliments, or unbelievably passionate sex, then abruptly pulls away or inflicts emotional harm. That cycle of pain and reward creates a powerful bond, similar to an addiction. You start craving the next high, the next flood of affirmation, which temporarily erases the pain from the last low. Biochemically, your body releases oxytocin and dopamine during intimacy, cuddle time, or any positive contact. Oxytocin is sometimes called the love hormone, because it fosters bonding and trust, while dopamine lights up your brain's reward circuit. In a healthy relationship, these hormones strengthen a mutual bond, building genuine closeness. But in a toxic dynamic with a narcissist, they become the raw material for addiction. You chase that fleeting sense of connection or euphoria, even though the partner rarely sustains it. Mia described those moments of affection like an intense drug rush. Jared was occasionally so attentive and physically affectionate that she felt like the most desired woman on earth. Then, within hours, he'd ice her out, claiming he was busy or irritated by her clinginess. She found herself in a state of perpetual anxiety, waiting for his next crumb of approval. At the time, she confused that anxiety with excitement, believing it signaled a passionate relationship. The heartbreak is that the more you get hurt, the more you yearn for the instant fix of your partner's affection. It's akin to being starved and then offered a morsel of food. You cling to that morsel as if it's everything. This cyclical dynamic keeps many intelligent, loving individuals stuck far longer than they ever imagined. If you find yourself replaying the good moments in your head, rationalizing the harm, or hoping that they'll go back to who they were at the beginning, you may be trapped in a trauma bond. Recognizing it is the first step to dismantling it. It's not that you're weak or foolish, your brain has been hijacked by a psychologically potent trap that many others have also experienced. Recovery starts by calling it what it is, an exploitative cycle of pain and short-lived relief that has nothing to do with genuine love or partnership. Knowledge is your armor here. Once you see the pattern, you can begin to break it. Another question that arises: can a narcissist change if they go to therapy or if I love them enough? In most cases, the answer is sobering, no. True narcissists have an entrenched pattern of thinking, shaped by deeply rooted self-centeredness and a fragile sense of self that they aggressively protect. Therapy might help a small percentage if, and only if, they truly accept responsibility. But the majority do not remain in therapy long enough to address core issues, preferring to quit or blame the therapist. There's also a phenomenon known as narcissistic supply. Narcissists constantly need fresh admiration, new challenges, or new conquests to feed their ego. The instant they feel they've used up one source, or that a partner no longer provides the same level of awe, they may move on or escalate abusive tactics. Expecting them to just see the light and become empathetic typically leads to heartbreak. More importantly, your well-being is at stake. Waiting around, hoping they'll magically wake up empathetic one morning, can cost you years of self-esteem, mental stability, and even physical health. You deserve more than being an emotional punching bag or an object for someone's self-serving fantasies. As we progress, we'll talk about how you can exit such a destructive dynamic. But remember this crucial point: the biggest gift you can give yourself is permission to recognize that you're not obligated to fix another person's deep-seated personality disorder. There's a difference between compassion and self-sacrifice. You can care about someone's wounds without letting them destroy you in the process. It's one thing to see the red flags, it's another to gather the courage and clarity to leave. Below are some concrete steps and strategies to guide you toward freedom and healing. 1. Acknowledge the reality. Spend time journaling or listing specific incidents, gaslighting moments, times you felt alone or used, cruel words said to you after intimacy. Reading these entries can pierce the illusion that maybe it's not so bad. Emotions can be fleeting, but written records remind you of the consistent harm. 2. Set firm boundaries. You might begin by saying, I am not willing to engage in sexual activity if you insult me or dismiss my feelings right after. Or, I need open communication, no stonewalling, if we are to continue this relationship. Pay close attention to how your partner reacts. A narcissist will often dismiss your boundaries or guilt-trip you for having them. This immediate invalidation is a clear signal that your well-being is not a priority to them. 3. Seek support systems. Isolation is a powerful tool for narcissists to maintain control. You might have noticed them discouraging you from talking to friends or family. Counteract that by reaching out to those you trust. Consider professional therapy, especially from counselors experienced in narcissistic abuse. You can also find online support groups where survivors share coping tactics. Seeing your experiences mirrored by others can be astonishingly validating. You realize, it's not just me, this is a textbook pattern of manipulation. 4. Contemplate the no-contact rule. If the relationship is severely toxic, implementing no contact might be your best option. This means blocking phone numbers, social media profiles, and avoiding shared social circles where feasible. Narcissists frequently return, often called hoovering, with grand gestures or tearful apologies once they sense you're drifting away. They do this because they hate losing control or supply. By holding firm to no contact, you shield yourself from further emotional assaults. Some people feel this is too extreme, especially if you have a shared lease, kids, or finances. In such complex situations, consider a gray rock method, responding minimally and unemotionally if interaction is unavoidable. Always prioritize your safety if you suspect volatility or violence. 5. Address underlying vulnerabilities. Ask yourself, why did I stay? Was I taught in childhood that my needs weren't important? Do I have codependency tendencies? Understanding these deeper personal factors can prevent you from repeating this pattern in future relationships. It's not about blaming yourself for the narcissist's behavior, it's about building self-awareness so you can spot red flags early next time. 6. Create a concrete exit plan. If you live together, plan meticulously. Document finances, important documents, and, if necessary, line up a safe place to stay. In cases of potential aggression, confide in a trusted friend or a domestic violence hotline. Emotional or psychological abuse can quickly escalate. Don't underestimate the risk if your partner feels control slipping away. 7. Rebuilding post-breakup. Even after you leave, you might feel an urge to go back. Trauma bonding can linger. It's vital to keep reminders of why you left. Some people keep a private journal or record voice memos detailing the pain they experienced. If you get nostalgic or lonely, revisit those notes. Seek out hobbies and social connections that renew your sense of autonomy. Remember, healing isn't linear. You might have days of empowerment and nights of doubt. That's normal. The point is to keep moving forward, gradually rediscovering who you are without the narcissist's shadow looming over you. And if you ever slip or text them back, try not to beat yourself up. Recognize that each day is a new chance to stand by your own well-being. Share in the comments one step you plan to take, or have taken, to protect yourself from a toxic partner. Sometimes declaring your intention publicly is a powerful form of accountability. You deserve a life free from emotional manipulation. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the darkness of narcissistic abuse, but let's shift for a moment to genuine hope. Many survivors reclaim their lives, their sense of self-worth, and even find deeply fulfilling relationships down the line. Take, for instance, the famed story of Tina Turner, who endured appalling abuse in her marriage. Despite everything, she found the courage to leave and rebuilt a magnificent career and personal life, eventually becoming a global symbol of empowerment. Or consider the thousands of anonymous stories in support groups, people who quietly walk away, battered but not broken, choosing therapy and healthy boundaries over endless cycles of manipulation. In Mia's journey, the final straw was discovering Jared's blatant lies about seeing another woman. Initially, she confronted him, hoping for some shred of remorse. Instead, Jared gaslit her again, claiming she was delusional and insecure. That night, Mia packed a bag and stayed with a college friend. Over the next few weeks, she leaned on her friends, found a local women's support group, and began therapy to address why she had tolerated Jared's behavior for so long. The first few months were excruciating. Part of her still longed for the loving Jared she met at the beginning. But gradually, she recognized that version of Jared was simply a facade. She blocked him on all platforms, and each day she felt a bit more like herself. She began to see that she deserved a partner who valued her body and her heart, who wanted to build real intimacy, not a twisted power trip. If you're wondering whether you can find peace or happiness after a narcissistic entanglement, know this: countless people have done exactly that. They've emerged stronger, more self-aware, and more compassionate toward themselves and others. You can, too. Let's address a few common questions that often arise. Aren't I being too harsh labeling someone a narcissist? It's natural to hesitate. The label narcissist can sound harsh. But if the shoe fits, consistent manipulation, lack of empathy, an obsession with their own image, it's important to call it out. Identifying the behavior helps you protect yourself. You're not diagnosing them clinically, you're recognizing patterns detrimental to your well-being. What if my partner had a tough childhood? Should I cut them slack? Empathy for someone's past is admirable. However, a difficult childhood does not justify continuous emotional abuse. Many people endure hardships yet develop empathy and respect for others. Narcissists, by definition, remain blind to the harm they do and refuse meaningful accountability. You can feel compassion for their story without sacrificing your own mental health. Couldn't they change if they just realized how much they're hurting me? If awareness alone changed people, narcissism wouldn't be so destructive. True change requires deep introspection, sustained therapy, and genuine remorse. Narcissists typically excel at pretending or performing a small shift, then reverting to abusive patterns once they feel safe in your forgiveness. Am I to blame for letting it go on so long? You're not at fault for someone else's harmful behaviors. Narcissists are adept at hooking even the most independent individuals. The key is not to shame yourself for staying, it's to learn from the experience, identify red flags, and develop firm boundaries for the future. How do I move forward without constant guilt or regret? Healing involves self-compassion. Acknowledge that you did your best with the information and emotional capacity you had at the time. Engage in therapy or self-help resources focusing on reclaiming identity and rebuilding trust in your own judgment. Over time, guilt usually gives way to gratitude for having escaped and grown stronger. If any of these questions resonate, please share your thoughts. Our community might have insights that spark your courage to act. We've now covered a great deal, from understanding the narcissist's mindset and the 13 telltale signs in sexual relationships, to exploring the emotionally addictive cycle of trauma bonding, the rarity of narcissistic change, and the steps you can take to break free. Let's do one final rundown of those 13 signs for clarity. Sex as conquest, they see intimacy as a personal trophy, not mutual bonding. Craving constant admiration, your approval is mandatory, while your needs are ignored. I'm right, you're wrong, gaslighting whenever you attempt to discuss valid concerns. Claiming to know you better than you know yourself, they rewrite your feelings to serve their narrative. Refusal to communicate about problems, your attempts at honest dialogue are met with stonewalling or belittling. Your emotions don't matter, post-intimacy feelings of emptiness are dismissed or ridiculed. You're the one with issues, they frame you as the perpetually flawed partner, to maintain control. Abrupt withdrawal or ghosting, they love bomb you, then vanish to keep you chasing their approval. Obsessive control, from how and when sex happens to broader life details, they micromanage you. Chronic lies and no empathy, dishonesty is rampant, and they show no remorse for the distress it causes. Fake kindness, they can appear overly generous, but only to secure praise or keep you bonded. Hollow apologies, if they apologize, it's typically to manipulate you into dropping the subject. Lack of genuine emotional connection, despite physical closeness, you never reach their heart. If you recognized your reality in many of these signs, please don't ignore it. Narcissistic abuse is insidious precisely because it undermines your sense of identity, making you doubt what you truly feel and deserve. Yet there is a path forward. We discussed how to name the problem. Often half the battle is acknowledging it's not normal behavior. Then you set boundaries, seek support from trusted friends or professionals, and if needed, go no contact to protect your emotional well-being. Above all, you begin a journey of self-repair, addressing the internal wounds that kept you entangled in the first place. As the story of Mia illustrates, leaving a narcissist can feel like escaping a labyrinth. There might be heartbreak, self-doubt, or nights when you question if you'll ever find genuine love. But know that every moment of clarity you claim is a step toward rebuilding a life free from manipulation. Many survivors go on to form healthy relationships or find deep fulfillment within themselves. The universal message is, you are not broken, and you're certainly not powerless. I encourage you to keep learning, keep sharing your experiences, and keep reminding yourself that real intimacy is marked by mutual care and respect, never manipulation or conquest. If this video brought you insights or helped you feel less alone, consider liking, subscribing, or sharing it with someone who may need these words. That small gesture could spark a life-changing revelation for another person. You deserve emotional safety, respect, and love in all forms, including sexual intimacy. Don't settle for less. Thank you so much for staying through this entire discussion. And remember, no matter how deep you are in, there's always a path out. Your future can be brighter, healthier, and far more fulfilling than you ever imagined.